Roguelikes and roguelites are all about learning as you go. As I mentioned in my Blueprints video, failure is baked into the genre itself, with the expectation that even a failed run has taught you something new. For a combat-focused roguelite such as the newly released Lost in Random, The Eternal Die, one of the best examples of learning through failure is getting used to attack patterns. Each area you traverse within the Black Die eventually brings Alexandra and Fortune face to face with Mayor's higher servants, who can quickly send you packing if you're not careful. What the game doesn't explicitly tell you is that it's been subtly prepping you for these boss battles all along. For many of you, this may not be revelatory or even particularly interesting, but I think it's an excellent method of game design. In fact, one of the biggest criticisms of the Switch-era 3D Zelda games is their lack of traditional dungeons that were so prevalent in the series up to that point. If you're unfamiliar, each dungeon would have a new item to acquire, such as the bow and arrow or a hookshot. You need to use this new item to solve puzzles and reach the boss, and, in some cases, may need to use it during the battle as well. This layout was a clever way of not only giving the player more tools at their disposal, but also letting them learn by experience rather than needing to bring everything to a screeching halt in order to show you a new tutorial. This approach is perfect for a series like Zelda with specific dungeons to overcome throughout the main story, but it doesn't fit in neatly with the structure of a roguelite. You choose Alexandra's weapon before beginning each run, and the other items, such as card abilities and relics, are randomized. The key to victory over Mayor's higher servants is not one specific weapon, relic, or ability, but being able to anticipate and react to their attack patterns. So that's precisely what each area within the Black Die gives you. At the end of the first area, you're challenged by Alexandra's fifth cousins, the Duke and Duchess Dublé. They each wield one of three possible armor sets which are randomized with each run: Scepter, Spear, and Mace. As you would assume, each of these coincide with specific moves that may favor ranged or melee attacks, though they're capable of both. The game does a great job of telegraphing certain types of attacks that clue the player in on when to use your dash ability to escape harm, but there's more to it than that. The more runs you attempt, the more you're likely to realize nearly all the Dublé's attacks are variations of attacks you've been seeing all along. Each time you fight your way to the Dublé's, you'll encounter a handful of smaller enemies, including a couple variations wielding magic like the Dublé Scepter armor, ones wielding spears, and ones wielding swords. Their attacks may not have the same scope as the Dublé's, but they're functionally similar. If that wasn't enough, you may also come across one of two lesser servants, one wielding magic and one wielding a hammer. These lesser servants' attacks are not only larger in scope than their regular enemies, they're more or less identical to the attacks you'll be dashing away from if you hope to make it to the next area alive. This is certainly one of those elements of game design that feels ridiculously obvious in hindsight, but it's excellent nonetheless. There are plenty of games where larger enemies and boss fights are completely unrelated to the minions you dispatched along the way, meaning you're stuck trying to learn something new in the hardest possible environment. This can be rewarding in its own way, but it's just as likely to frustrate players to the point of putting it down and never coming back. By allowing the players to see and learn along the way, whether they realize it or not, The Eternal Die is doing its best to set the player up for success, even within the bounds of a genre centered around failure and starting over from the beginning. The basic enemies and lesser servants Mayor sends after you almost serve as practice tests, showing you what you'll almost certainly need to know once the big test comes around. It's like your ally Chance tells you in the Sanctuary.
Like in any board game, there are patterns to find. Studying these will grant you invaluable strategic opportunities.
Alexandra and Fortune are trapped within a game, and if you don't learn the rules, or the patterns, you're not going to emerge victorious. Considering this is the debut title from developer Stormteller Games, I'm even more impressed that they managed to pull off such a sneaky yet effective game mechanic. Now that I've picked up on these mechanics, I'm feeling even more prepared every time I start a new run. Thank you again to Thunderful and Lurkit for the review copy. What have you thought of Lost in Random, The Eternal Die? Did you also pick up on this gameplay mechanic? Let me know in the comments. And as always, play what you love and love what you play.